All right, everybody. This is episode 68 of Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. We're creeping up on episode 70. This is another kind of Halloween-themed episode. It's more about one person, though, who's made quite a few horror films, and that is one of my favorite directors, John Carpenter. Obviously, everybody knows him from Halloween. We won't be covering this much on this episode. We'll talk a little bit about it because of one of the movies we're going to review. But this episode will mainly be about other John Carpenter films, maybe the ones that people don't know about, kind of lesser known stuff. But first off, Wayne, and I had you and me both watched it, and it was his first film. It was a student film that he made at USC with Dan O'Bannon, who would go on to be the writer of Alien and Aliens. It's called Dark Star, and it's this kind of like big sci-fi epic shot for about, I think they said, I read somewhere it was like $50,000 over 3 years.
Wow.
It's a weird, goofy movie when you look at it, right, Wayne?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely got student film written all over it, but that's not to say it's a bad film in any way.
No, I think what's interesting here, the things I've noticed in some of his earlier work so I've been rewatching some of his stuff this last week or two. He's got a lot of style in it, even though it's a student film, an independent film that they did for $50,000 with non-actors, including them. Like Ed O'Bannon is one of the main characters in the movie. He's not an actor. The other guys were just like kids they went to school with. It turned out like technically looking pretty good. It's ridiculous. The villain is the giant alien beach ball, played by Nick Castle, who would go on to play Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise. But it's got a charm to it, I think. It was meant to be a comedy, so it wasn't meant to be taken seriously. There's a story, Ed O'Bannon wrote a big thing because I have the Blu-ray of it, so there's a big thing that popped up on the screen. It was like a message from him telling everybody what the intention was. And that they actually went to a theater to see how many people were laughing, and the guy's like, what do you mean? There's like 2 people in there. So they had this kind of grandeur idea of how popular this movie was going to be, and it was not. So it's just interesting to see what has come from that. Because you could see little bits of Alien and Aliens in this. There's even a scene where a guy's taking a knife and trying to, like, doing the whole thing around his fingers like Paxton does in Aliens.
Mm-hmm.
So there are little bits and pieces that you can tell they liked from this movie that they took and they put in other movies. The camera work I thought was fantastic. I know Carpenter doesn't shoot his own movies, but obviously he has his own style he wants them to get. And you could tell that the movie looked really good because of the camera movements and the directing and the shots and stuff. It looked like a real movie. It just looked like a real cheesy movie, if that makes it sound better, I guess.
It's all about potential with these early films, and you can see that the potential is there. The storytelling is there. Watching it in the opening monologue with the guy on screen, he's talking about being 14 parsecs or 18 parsecs away from something. And a parsec is a unit of time, not a unit of distance. The same thing that Star Wars does. So I immediately gravitated to that. I'm like, here's something Star Wars related in a film that's 4 years earlier than that. It's like, wait a minute, what?
But they went to school with George Lucas. So because everybody went to USC. So it'd be interesting to know if there were other people behind the scenes that are now larger than we know. Or that we know now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
To see like if Lucas and them were friends or whatnot, or if that's just a coincidence. Because I noticed that too. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh, it's Star Wars.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the ending is super ridiculous, but I loved it all at the same time. We're going to spoil it, people, because it's a movie from 1974. But after the 2 guys blow up on the spaceship, and you have the other 2 guys just floating out in space, the one guy's just like, oh my god, it's taking me, I guess I'll just go. I'll see you. And he like gets dragged to another planet or it's like an asteroid, I think. And then
I thought it was an asteroid.
Yeah,
so.
I think he mentions like asteroid at some point. And then the other guy's heading towards a planet, and he decides to grab part of the ship and surf down to the planet to die, basically, which I thought was pretty epic. And very Carpenter, I feel like. It's totally something like Snake Plissken would do if he were in outer space.
Or the movie where the cowboy's riding the bomb.
Dr. Strangelove, yep. Slim Pickens,
Thank you.
Yeah, it's you're right. Very similar to that, and I'm sure that was probably an inspiration. Just nuts how it all... maybe Dr. Strangelove, I can't remember if that came out before or after this, but regardless. A lot of people thinking the same things at around that same time. But it was definitely interesting to see like where he was going to go. Because now knowing where he went, like it was interesting to see like how that talent had always been there. For both him and O'Bannon, I think. But especially for Carpenter, since that's who we're talking about today. It was definitely nice to see that like, oh, okay, so this guy's been super talented his whole life. So, and he's always done the music. He did the music for Dark Star. He does the music for all his own movies. He does the music for all the new Halloween movies. So he's, keeping busy. He just released a new album recently. So he definitely, it was nice. Like I said again, I'm going to repeat myself here, but it was nice to see just an earlier work from him, something I hadn't seen. So raw, too. It was very raw. Like they said, it was a student film, basically. So in 1976, he gets his first main feature film, like a company. I don't know. It's still an indie film. They made it on their own, but they were able to like sell it off to a company, and that's Assault on Precinct 13. And that movie was actually remade as well. So I don't know how many people have seen this. Have you seen this one, Wayne?
Not the original, no.
Okay. The original is really good. The remake changes a few things. I still like the remake too. The original, though, is great. Has a great kind of nobody knows who they are cast. A great opening that kind of shocks everybody. If you watch the movies that made us on Netflix, they just did a Halloween episode. They actually talk a little bit about Assault on Precinct 13. It went overseas to, I think they said France. It was huge. And it did nothing in America. So then it finally came back from France and people liked this movie. So then it started to be looked upon as a good movie. Which then led them to making, obviously, Halloween. He did 2 TV movies, Someone's Watching Me, which I've started but not finished, and Elvis, which I haven't watched yet. So Halloween obviously kind of gave him, I think, carte blanche to do whatever in his mind was next. And a lot of people, the next movie we're going to talk about, I'm not the biggest fan of, but a lot of people hold it in high regard as one of his top 3 films, and that's The Fog from 1980.
Yes. A very interesting concept of this movie. I remember watching it with my dad as a way too young child, being scared. But, you got a really interesting ensemble cast because, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis coming back. And then you've got, obviously, you got Janet Leigh, Adrienne Barbeau.
Yep. Tom Atkins, who actually plays a character named Nick Castle. Which is fun because Nick Castle was Michael Myers. Charles Cyphers, who was in Halloween and a bunch of other John Carpenter films. That's the one thing I noticed too when doing a rewatch of some of his other movies is he kept bringing back the same casts, which I like.
Charles Cyphers, Dan O'Bannon.
Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that was his character name. So there you go. Just a little shout outs to his friend. Hal Holbrook in this movie too is the priest. He was really good. Legendary, I believe the late Hal Holbrook. He just died somewhat recently from Sons of Anarchy, though people know him from that, obviously. Into the Wild. But The Fog is a movie about a small coastal town that has this myth of these ghosts coming to shore every so many years and murdering, and it's all just an urban legend type thing.
Right? Ghost pirates.
Ghost pirates, or pirate ghosts, however you want to say it. And weird things start happening. Adrienne Barbeau plays the woman who owns the lighthouse, but she also is their only source of news She's the radio personality, and she doesn't. She has a young child who she is home with the babysitter, and she feels it's her duty to stay there and report and keep reporting until, people can get help or they figure out how to get rid of the pirate ghost.
Yep.
Tom Atkins, great 80s horror icon. He was in Halloween 3, Maniac Cop, and Creep Show. So it's great to see him in all these movies, and it's nice to see Carpenter. I don't think Carpenter worked with him a lot, but this is one of the movies that he was in. He was in Escape from New York as well, which we'll get to in a minute here. But it's just it's a really interesting movie, I think, especially to go from what he did. He basically started the slasher boom, and then instead of going back to that, he decided to go to something different. And I think that just shows that he has an eclectic taste in his own stuff that he wants to do. Because if you look at his roster of films, I would say, with the exception of obviously any sequels that he directed, which were very rare, the movies were very different. Nothing was. He never wanted to go back and do the same thing again, which is why he didn't direct Halloween 2. He just wanted to, kind of keep doing something different, take his ideas and see if people would like them. And I kind of admire that. And again, while I say I'm not the biggest fan of The Fog, I watched it the second time, or I don't know if it was the second time I've seen it, but I watched it again this last week or so, and it was better than I remembered. It's a fun movie. There's great gore and death in it, so if you like that kind of stuff. The ghosts look pretty cool. Effects were really good.
One of the things that I noticed is just how many of his films have been remade, or try to repackage it or recapture the magic of the original ones. And aside from the Halloween movies, I think a lot of them fail because they just didn't have that Carpenter touch to them.
Exactly.
Just something is missing. And I don't know if it's just because we're nostalgic and we're so attached to the original films that the remakes just kind of fall flat. Because it's not just Carpenter films; it's all remakes for me. It's like a lot. It takes a lot for me to like a remake, I guess.
It does, and there are some good ones, and we talked about a few of them last week when we were talking about slasher films. And I'm trying to. I mean, honestly, Halloween is probably the only remake of his that I would say is any good. The Thing was technically actually a prequel, so not really a remake.
Okay.
But no, you're right. I mean, they remade The Fog, they remade Assault on Precinct 13, they remade Halloween. They did another Thing movie. So I mean, there's he did a lot of stuff that did resonate with people that they want to try to recapture. There is a long rumored Escape from New York sequel or remake in the works, possibly. Same with Big Trouble in Little China. So he obviously resonated with people in the 80s that they want to keep going back to these properties, and that that's hard to do, I think. So the fact that he still remained relevant, his last movie was over 11 years ago now. So the fact that he could remain relevant without doing much over the last 20 years, I think says something about his talent and his ability. So the next one, Escape from New York, I did get a chance to rewatch this one. I really love this movie. This was his second movie with Kurt Russell. I did not watch Elvis, but this was the first kind of action movie he did with Kurt Russell, and no one better to play this part than Kurt Russell as Snake Plissken. Just a fantastic movie, lots of great sci-fi fun. It's a man who's basically like in prison for the rest of his life, who's tasked to go save the president, played by the late Donald Pleasance, also from Halloween and Prince of Darkness. And, kind of reluctant to do it, but he ends up doing it anyway. And he gets inside New York, which is now just basically this giant prison. And he has to find the president, and he meets some friendly faces in there. Ernest Borgnine plays a character that he befriends, Adrienne Barbeau as well, and what's his name? Let me bring up the cast list here. He just passed away.
We got Tom, and we got Charles Cyphers. It's great to see regular actors and directors working together. I mean, I'll credit Adam Sandler for doing the same thing.
You're right.
You're going to see them pop up in cameos, and I love that.
Yes.
I really do.
Harry Dean Stanton was who I was talking about, but you're right. Yeah, Charles Cyphers and Tom Atkins, they played two of the guys that work back with Lee Van Cleef from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. He plays like the main man to the president, like the right-hand man of that area to the president, who sends in Snake. So yeah, it's fun to see all those people playing in this big sandbox that Carpenter has created. I will say too, Wayne, Charles Cyphers, I did not realize, maybe you didn't either, that he's Charlie from Major League.
Oh, no joke. Yeah. Now looking at his picture on IMDb, it's like, oh yeah, that's him.
Yeah. I'm like, I've seen Major League and Halloween probably like combined 50 to 60 times, and I did not know that was the same person.
Sit down, Charlie.
I was like, when I found that out, because that's the same thing. I think I looked him up, and in the picture that was his picture on like Google was from Major League. I was like, no shit. So I thought that was pretty hilarious. Obviously, his IMDb picture has changed because he does. We'll talk about him again later because he does appear in the newest Halloween movie. So they updated his stuff. But if you haven't seen Escape from... Sorry, I'm going to have to cut all that out. If you haven't seen Escape from New York, you definitely need to check it out. I didn't even know this either. Written by John Carpenter and Nick Castle. So that was the interesting thing watching the movies that made us Halloween. Nick Castle, Tommy Lee Wallace, who's the director of Halloween 3, they all talked about how basically they all worked together. Like they all worked on each other's projects and produced each other's movies and helped write them and score them and all this stuff. So it's pretty cool, again, if we talk all the actors he keeps bringing back, that he not only brings back the actors, but also the producing team and all the production people and the camera people. Just pretty fantastic, I think. And the other thing, too, I wanted to mention, I think, let me see here real quick. I know we skipped over Halloween, but we're going to take a step back here because I don't know if people realize this, but the guy that was the DP of Halloween is also the DP of Jurassic Park. So, like, you know, just to see the pedigree that comes from Carpenter and the guys that he started with and he worked with to what they went and they did after they worked with him. The fact that you could be like, yeah, I did Halloween in 1978, and then I also did this little movie called Jurassic Park. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, man.
So 1982, a year after Escape from New York. In the 80s, you'll notice he was doing so much work, like almost a movie a year.
Yeah.
The Thing is one of my favorite movies of his. Next to Halloween, it's probably my second favorite. I just rewatched this one too. It's fantastic. It's all these people working in like the Arctic or Alaska. I'm not sure exactly where it takes place, but somewhere where it's really cold and they're like drilling and stuff. And there's another crew that they have a run-in with, and the guy like shoots one of them, and they're like, "What's going on?" And they realize he was chasing something, and he was chasing an alien. And it's this, they call it the Thing, that turns into, it can mimic people or animals, and so you never know who or what is the Thing. You kind of just have to prepare to fight against your friends, and they work the whole, how kind of like Walking Dead type thing where people are worse than what you're actually fighting.
Right.
Everyone turns on each other. This is another one. While he didn't bring back as many people from his other movies, he did bring back Kurt Russell, but he did have a great cast with him. Wilford Brimley, T.K. Carter, Keith David, Charles Hallahan. You'll remember him you'll know who he is if you look him up. Peter Maloney, Richard Mauser, who I really like. He's from Stephen King's It, the TV version. Donald Moffat, people will recognize him. Thomas G. Watts, who actually is an actor that was in Warriors, but then got into a fight with the director of Warriors, and he was fired. So he still has a couple scenes in Warriors, but he wanted to be uncredited because he didn't have a good time on that set. So he shows up as Windows in The Thing, which I think he's kind of more known for now than Warriors. Adrian Barbeau is the computer voice. John Carpenter plays the Norwegian through video footage. Jed plays the dog Thing. The other thing, too, I forgot to mention, Jamie Lee Curtis was actually a voice in Escape from New York. So again, here you get him bringing back people that you don't even realize that's who they are because they go uncredited. But he got his friends to come and do a voice for one of his movies. This movie is so fucking cool. It just the score, the cinematography, the special effects. Everybody, you remember scenes from this movie are seared into your brain because they were so memorable. There's just so many great stuff from this film. Wayne, do you have any thoughts on The Thing? I know when the last time you saw it was.
Oh, I haven't seen it in a while, but the story about The Thing is always. I didn't see this one until 2000, and we had a impromptu Halloween get-together party thing, and we need horror movies. So of course we tried to go to Blockbuster and rent something, and of course everything is sold out. So I'm like walking around, like, hey, The Thing. This looks creepy. And everyone's like, oh, this looks stupid. We put it on, and everyone's like, oh, yeah, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, blah, blah, blah. When was this made? I'm like, just watch. I had a feeling this was going to be great. I had never heard anything about it, really, or if I did, I wasn't paying attention to it. And everybody was freaked out. And everybody was like trying to be all like, oh, this is stupid. It's like scared shitless. So I'll always have a soft spot for The Thing and this film because everybody at this party was like just poo-pooing. I'm like, yeah, watch. It's going to be good. And it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's seriously, it's one of those movies that still holds up. I think even if you just see it like once or twice, you still remember most of the movie because it was that good. Because I know I've only seen it a handful of times, and I still remember it pretty clearly. It's just, I mean, everyone gives a great performance. Kurt Russell's fantastic. I'd like to see, people always talk about like remakes or sequels you'd like to see. I would like to see either direct sequels. Well, no, let's call them direct sequels to The Thing and Escape from New York, where Wyatt Russell plays his father's character. Now, he doesn't want to do this. You could also have him play like his son or whatever, too. But I think that's the only way with some of these movies that you're going to get people to go along with them.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a really good point. And good plan of attack or action if I'm gonna get it to work.
I'm going to call him up. Hey, Wyatt, you're going to do these movies and you're not going to argue about it.
Come on, Captain.
All right, so 1983. Yes, I know this is one you were wanting to talk about or waiting to talk about. This is Christine. I'll be honest, like I really truly love this movie. I always forget that he did it. I don't know why, because it's totally Carpenter. But it's just one of those movies that I guess I didn't realize, I didn't, obviously at the time I didn't know. And when I was going through learning who Carpenter was, it wasn't one I experienced until later in life. Probably maybe 10 years ago. And I love it. It's a fantastic movie, but I kind of always forget he did it. Based on the novel by Stephen King, written by Bill Phillips, starring Keith Gordon, John Stockwell, Alexandra Paul, Robert Prosky, Harry Dean Stanton again. David.
How about William Ostrander as the villain-esque type bad guy in this movie? Just a guy you love to hate. It really encapsulates high school jag-off. Oh, yeah.
He plays it really well. I always find it humorous that, in these type of movies, especially in the 80s, that, the high school jack-off were, guys that were, 2 seconds away from being a serial killer and not just, a bully. Just always made me go, wow. The 80s must have been rough because all these bullies are played as if they're, basically going to be in prison in the next scene. And probably should be.
Yeah, absolutely. Pulling a knife student, that's an arrestable offense.
Exactly. Chasing down someone, trying to murder them, and then being like, oh, he's just a bully at high school. Play it off so easy.
Destroy vehicle.
Yep.
Taking hit on the dashboard.
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, so for people that don't know about Christine, it is a movie about a young man who's kind of a dork who gets to buy his first car. It's kind of like a beat-up old thing, and he's like, I'm going to work on it. So he puts a lot of effort into it. Well, it turns out the car is possessed. We never really...
It is a 1957 Plymouth Fury.
Yes.
It was possessed by the spirit of a ghost while it was on the assembly line in Detroit, where one of the workers is crushed because he drops a cigarette.
That's right. Yeah.
So very interesting the way they did the backstory and everything. And I totally cut you off. I apologize.
No, that's good because I was about to say that I don't remember why. So you jumped in at the right moment, Wayne.
Almost like we know what we're doing after 68 episodes.
Exactly. Yeah, so he gave you the backstory there. So the young man buys the car, Arnie, and played by Keith Gordon, who's now become more of a director, but also from Back to School, if you like 80s movies. He kind of becomes almost possessed himself with this car. Anytime something bad happens to the car, it fixes itself. It looks like a real like awesome like sports car at the time that he's done like building it and stuff. And he, eventually like it goes around and it starts killing people. The people that are making Arnie's life a living hell. His best friend and the girl that I think that he likes also figure it out, and they basically are the only ones that can stop him because nobody else obviously will believe that they're dealing with a possessed car. It's a really, really good movie. I know people hear probably possessed car and they're like, oh, that sounds dumb. But really, you should watch it. Just the again, cinematography, the score, the acting, everything that goes into making a great 80s film from John Carpenter, this has. And I think it just gets forgotten about a lot because he's got so many other really good movies. It's not like this one's bad. It's just the other ones are more popular and more talked about. And this one, I don't know if it's just when it came out, it didn't do as well as some of the other movies. I mean, Halloween didn't do great when it came out either. It was more after the fact that it became a classic,
Yep.
And I think
the cult following is what. This has definitely got the cult status and the cult following for sure.
For sure.
Hit the nail on the head with just the score and just the ambiance of the film. The ending scene when they're fighting the car, if you will.
Yes.
Just that the synthesizer and that impending doom ambiance that you get. It's so good, so good.
Oh yeah, it's such a really good movie.
I want to also talk about the special effects they use and running the footage backwards as the car is rebuilding itself.
Oh yeah, it's really the stuff that they were able to do in the 80s, because they did a lot of different similar things in The Thing, just incredible.
I cannot recommend this one enough as a thriller. It won't go so far as to say it's scary, more like a thriller type.
Yeah.
When you
I would too. I would say out of his scary movies, The Thing is really scary. I don't even really consider Halloween to be scary. It's just a horror slasher that I love, obviously.
Yeah.
This.
Also,
go ahead.
Sorry, jumping in. Stephen Tash, the student from Ghostbusters that keeps getting electrocuted by Bill Murray, is in this movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I only know because I'm looking at his picture, and it's from Ghostbusters where he's trying to get.
Oh yeah, he plays one of the bullies, I believe.
Yes.
Now I remember him. He's got a total 80s face too, and if you've watched a lot of 80s movies, you know what I mean by that.
Yeah.
I did want to mention too, Robert Prosky plays the old man who lets him keep the car at his shop and work on the car. He was also in The Natural, which I just watched for the first time recently. So it's interesting to see him play two really completely different characters. As we said, Harry Dean Stanton. I believe Harry Dean Stanton plays he's not his dad, is he? No. I forget who he plays, but he's really good in it too. I mean, anytime Harry Dean Stanton shows up in a movie in the 80s especially, you get excited.
Yes.
Or you know what? I think he plays the guy that he buys the car from, maybe. I don't know. I don't remember. I'm just going to keep talking.
I think Robert Blossom is the one that he buys the car from with the back brace.
Okay.
I truly don't remember who Harry Dean Stanton is. He may be the Keith Gordon's father. No. I can't remember. I'm just grasping at straws.
Drawing a blank. Grasping at straws. I do want to remember, or not remember.
I didn't know that Kelly Preston,
yeah, she's in it too. She's, I believe... See, I didn't get a chance to rewatch this one, so I can't remember exactly, but I do remember her being in it. She's just one of the girls at school, I think.
Right.
So, I did want to mention, too, because we had been talking about how there weren't a lot of good remakes. Just so people realize, The Thing is a remake. So The Thing is a great remake. A lot of people, I don't think, remember that or know that. So I just wanted to bring that up real quick. All right, so Big Trouble in Little China was his next one in 1980. I skipped over Starman only because I haven't watched it yet. So I'm going to watch it at some point. Wayne, have you seen Starman or no?
Yeah, a long time ago. It involves an alien coming to Earth trying to get to a destination in another part of the country.
Okay.
And for me, it's got some E.T. vibes, but not family friendly, if you will.
Gotcha.
It's good, but nothing. For me, it's not really memorable. I know, like, people, like, in the 80s talk about it a lot, but people in the 80s.
Yeah.
People who were alive and seeing films in the 80s will talk about it and wax poetically about it, but it never really left a lasting impression on me.
Okay. All right, well, I'll watch it, and I'll let you guys know how I felt about it. So another one, I think this is definitely you could call a cult hit, is Big Trouble in Little China. Kurt Russell returns to the John Carpenter verse. Kim Cattrall joins him. Dennis Dunn, James Hong, Victor Wong, Kate Burton, Donald Lee, Carter Wong, Peter Kwong, James Pax. A lot of Asian actors in this film. If you know the movie, that you would definitely understand why they're in this film. This is a crazy fucking movie. I've seen this half a dozen times, I'd say. Kurt Russell, first off, is fantastic in this movie. He just exudes that kind of 80s coolness, I guess, if you will. And he was perfect for it.
Rocking a business mullet, if you will.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Kim Cattrall, who was just kind of coming on at that time after Porky's and a couple other, and Mannequin. So she was big at the moment.
Was this before or after Police Academy?
After, I believe, because I think Police Academy is 84, this was 86. So I think it was before Mannequin, though, but after Police Academy and after Porky's.
After Porky's.
Yeah, because Porky's was 1980, yeah.
Yeah, and that led into Mannequin. You are correct as usual, sir.
Yes.
Just real quick before we do, I love the fact that they did use an Asian cast in this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Get white folks to squint, if you will.
And that's the thing, too. I think, with Carpenter, he's always been kind of open to using whoever's right for the role. And
right.
Keith, I get him confused. Keith David, who pops up a lot in his films as well, has a main role in the couple films that he's in with him. So he is not opposed to having a very diverse cast, and it was definitely nice to see an 80s movie with this diverse of a cast, basically almost a whole Asian cast with the exception of the main characters. And people will probably go, it's unfortunate it's not the main characters, but the whole point of it is like it's a fish out of water type of story with Kurt Russell. Like he's in a situation that he's not familiar with. So he's kind of an idiot, but he's a brave idiot, so it fits perfectly, I think, with what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, sir.
Yeah, so if you haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China, it's a comedy, an action comedy, sci-fi, but it's a lot of fun. Just great, kind of really cool special effects, great characters, stuff that you'll remember, I think, for a while after you watch it. James Hong and Victor Wong, the fact that they're both in this movie, those great Asian actors that are known to American film goers from other films. So, I mean, it's just one of those things that totally 80s, a total 80s movie, just like the next one, not the next one, but the one after the next one I'm going to bring up. But it just, such a cool movie. Such a cool film.
Absolutely. One of my favorite character actors of all time.
Who?
James Hong.
Oh, James Hong, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic. So the next one, I don't know if have you seen Prince of Darkness?
If I have, it's been a very long time. I don't recall it very well at all, honestly.
Okay, that's okay. I'll talk on it briefly. I just watched it for the first time probably like 10 years ago or so, or maybe even less than that. Written and directed by John Carpenter, starring Donald Pleasance, Lisa Blunt, Jameson Parker, Victor Wong again, Dennis Dunn again, So again, as you see, as he does these movies, he adds more to the family. He keeps bringing these actors back. Dirk Blocker, who was everyone knows him now from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Peter Jason, I think he was on Seinfeld. There's a lot of, again, or Alice Cooper's in it too. So, Prince of Darkness is what you think it is. It sounds like it's about the devil. And Donald Pleasance plays, kind of similar to his Dr. Loomis character, is the one that believes that the devil is coming to, like, tear their town apart or whatever. And so he puts together, like, a team of, like, they're all, like, college scientists or something like that, if I remember correctly. And they go about their way of trying to beat the devil. It's a very interesting film. It was not one that I think before I saw the Blu-ray, I didn't even realize like it was a movie. I thought it was probably like a Dracula type movie, but it's not. It's about the devil, which makes more sense because it's called Prince of Darkness. For some reason, I remember Dracula being called the Prince of Darkness in another movie here or there, so that's what made me think of that. But really, Prince of Darkness usually refers to the devil. So it's a fun movie. It's on Shudder, I think, if you have Shudder. Or actually, I think it's on Peacock right now. So if you have Peacock, go over to Peacock, check it out. It's pretty good. Then in 1988, another like fan favorite of his, and that's They Live. And this one starred Roddy Piper, Keith David, Meg Foster with her magnificent eyes, George Buck Flowers, who actually was in one of his other movies. So again, Peter Jason from Prince of Darkness, Jason Robards III, let's see, Cy Richardson. They Live is a movie about consumerism. And an alien race has basically landed in the United States and has started taking people over, but you can't tell who they are unless you have a special pair of glasses, which Roddy Piper and Keith David end up getting, and basically are the heroes of this story. Who end up just kind of stumbling into this conspiracy and the way that these aliens are ruling over people's lives with commercials and ads and stuff. When they put the glasses on, you can see what the ads really are saying instead of what they say on the outside. You can see the inside of the aliens with their creepy skull look, kind of almost like a Mars Attacks look, if you're familiar with Mars Attacks. So obviously you can tell, even though Burt was inspired by old 1950s alien movies, I think he took a little bit from They Live as well.
Your description reminds me of the Nintendo game Bart versus the Space Mutants.
Yep.
For Nintendo, Super Nintendo.
Yes, I remember that very well. You're right. Yeah, kind of. They probably stole the storyline from there. It's such a great movie. I do think Roddy Piper was not a good actor. He's a great wrestler, not a great actor. They say it wasn't written for Kurt Russell. I don't believe them. I think it was written for Kurt Russell, and Kurt Russell at that point had just become too famous and was doing lots of other things. So they went with Roddy Piper, who's very raw, but it's very much a Kurt Russell type character. And
was he very too?
Huh?
You said he was very raw. Was he rowdy too?
Yes, he was very raw and rowdy. He had, one of the lines I think people always quote is, "I came here to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and I'm all out of bubblegum." That's a great, I think, line from the movie. And I actually just recently, they released Funkos for him and the alien. I do have those characters, so I'm excited to have those in my collection because I do love this movie. It's such a weird slice of 1980s that if you haven't seen it, you definitely need to check out They Live. So moving on through Carpenter's movies here, this is where probably most of the recommendations are going to stop. Now, to be fair, I like most of these movies, but I recognize that they're not great movies. I probably became a fan of his in the 90s through most of these movies and then went backwards because these movies came out when I was growing up. Memoirs of an Invisible Man with Chevy Chase. I just posted about that one recently. I saw that movie a number of times when I was a kid. It was the first time I saw it, probably as an adult, was just when I posted about it last time. It's dumb, but I still like it. I don't know. Carpenter has this style that I just enjoy. It's not a good movie per se, and I don't recommend a lot of people watch it, but I thought it was fun. Have you seen Memoirs of an Invisible Man?
I have not.
Okay. He did a TV movie that was an anthology called Body Bags, which I enjoyed. That you can catch on Shudder. He plays the mortician who's already kind of dead at the beginning of the movie. One that I really would recommend from the 90s, I will say two. In the Mouth of Madness and Vampires. Now, Vampires does have James Woods in it, and he's a piece of shit now. But Vampires is a great B horror movie. A lot of fun, lots of great action. In the Mouth of Madness, I think, is actually a legit good movie. Probably the last really, truly good movie he made.
Not a fan of Village of the Damned?
Hold on. I like Village of the Damned, but I'm just talking like movies I would totally recommend. Did you see?
I mean, I talk about it because it's got Luke Skywalker in it, so...
It does.
And so that's like a double trifecta, or double whammy for me.
Yes, Village of the Damned is another one of those movies I saw growing up. We had what they called the black box in the 90s, which means you got pay-per-view for free. And that was one of those movies that I saw through there. And I watched it a number of times. Christopher Reeve, Kirstie Alley, Mark Hamill, as you mentioned. Great cast of characters. Not his best movie, but it's still a lot of fun. I wanted to get to watch this one again. I did not get around to watching it. But I do enjoy this movie. Again, I basically enjoy most of his movies. It's just to the degree that I enjoy them, you know. Let's see. Michael Parra was also in Village of the Damned. Meredith Salinger. Mark Hamill, as we said. Peter Jason again. So again, bringing back actors that he used before. Young Thomas Dekker plays one of the kids. He's an actor now. People will recognize him if you look him up. I don't think I knew that, but this is kind of like Children of the Corn. It's a remake of an older movie, and it's creepy kids. Kids can be creepy, man, especially when you put little blonde wigs on them.
Mm-hmm.
The only sequel he directed, Escape from L.A., came out in 1996. Most people consider that to be an awful movie, and it is, but it's also cheesy fun, and it has Bruce Campbell and Steve Buscemi in it. So that aspect of it I like already. Ghost of Mars was just bad. Ice Cube, Jason Statham, what's her name? Klinsky. I think it's Klinsky or Henstridge. No, Natasha Henstridge. I always get those two confused. Pam Grier. Clea Duvall. So a really good supporting cast, just not a very good movie. It's basically they go on this mission to Mars, and they end up fighting against all these aliens and shit, and it's just kind of weird. I did just watch The Ward. Not for the first time, technically. I had seen bits and pieces of it a while ago. That's the last one that he directed, the last feature film he made in 2010 with Amber Heard. And you had one of Meryl Streep's daughters was in it, and Danielle Pennebecker was in it. Mamie Gummer was Meryl Streep's daughter, Danielle Pennebecker, Laura Lee, Lindsay Fonseca, Mika Borum, Jared Harris was one of the main actors in it as well. Again, though, like, it's not a good movie, but you still get elements of Carpenter that you love. You get the great cinematography, you get the fantastic score. Probably better than expected performances, just because he kind of gets that out of people, and it just, you know, it reminded me too much of Identity, Wayne, with John Cusack.
Mm-hmm.
It had that same type of ending, and I was just like, oh, like that's where because it's kind of a slasher up until that point, and then it becomes like a psychological thriller that you weren't really expecting it to be, which is exactly what Identity did, but Identity did it so much better.
Yes.
So my recommendation would be to watch Identity, not The Ward. So that's John Carpenter. You know, there's rumors that he's going to be directing again. People want him to direct again. I think he's only in his early 70s or late 60s. So it's a possibility that we get another Carpenter film. I'm excited for that if we do. He did score the last couple Halloween films. So that's a bit, something that I love. So right there, we're gonna go right out of this into our reviews
of the week, and boy, are they punchable this week.
Mm-hmm. We've got 4 movies this week. because we didn't do the 2 last week, but we're going to start with the big one. We're going to start with Halloween Kills. Halloween Kills is a sequel to 2018's Halloween and the original 1978 movie Halloween. It was directed by David Gordon Green, written by him and Scott Teems and Danny McBride. Starring Jamie Lee Curtis, Judy Greer.
Never heard of
Never heard of Andy Matichak, James Jude Courtney, Nick Castle, Aaron Armstrong, Will Patton, Thomas Mann, Jim Cummings, Robert Longstreet, Anthony Michael Hall, Charles Cyphers returning, Kyle Richards also returning, Nancy Stevens also returning. From those 3 returned from the original film. Anthony Michael Hall plays the new Tommy Doyle. Everyone wanted them to cast Paul Rudd, but after seeing the movie, Wayne, I don't know that Paul Rudd would be able to look as old and disheveled as Anthony Michael Hall did.
Yeah. Paul Rudd is a Highlander and doesn't age.
Exactly. So the movie starts out directly following the last Halloween movie. So I'll start with this. There are several timelines within the Halloween universe. This one follows. It's Halloween 1978, Halloween 2018, Halloween Kills, and then next year will be Halloween Ends. So it's 4 movies. There'll be an ending, I think a definitive end to this universe of this story. I know people get confused. And this one, again, it takes up directly after, at the end of 2018 Halloween, Michael is left in the house burning by Laurie, her daughter Karen, and her granddaughter Allison. And
let me jump in real quick with a question. I know, and who better to ask than you? They are not brother and sister in this timeline, correct?
They are not brother and sister. There are a couple things I want to that this movie I'll answer the other question, or the other thing I know people have been talking about as we go through, but you're right. They're not, so in this universe, they're not brother and sister. They actually make a joke about that in the 2018 version where, it's not really a joke, but it's a line where Miles Robbins' character says, "Aren't they brother and sister?" And she goes, "Oh no, that's just some myth that someone made up a long time ago." So they got rid of that storyline. Now, they got rid of that storyline because John Carpenter never wanted to write that storyline. He did not want to give Michael a purpose. He is a killing machine, and he kills anybody who's in front of him. And that's for the most part, with the exception of a baby in 2018's Halloween. So, that is his purpose. That's what he wants. He's an unstoppable killing machine. He didn't want him to have this whole, deep-seated, oh, it's my sister, and I gotta kill her. Because really, then you're adding a lot more depth to a character that really doesn't need it or have it. There's no depth behind the mask, behind the eyes. When you look at it, even in the original franchise, when you find out in Halloween 2 that it is his sister.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do anything. You know what I mean? It doesn't. It just gives the audience go, "Oh, okay, well I get it now." I like that they removed that, and I like that in this movie. So again, it starts right after 18. So Michael's in the house and he's on fire, he's not on fire, but the house is on fire. He kills a bunch of firemen, and he escapes. The house burns to the ground. He escapes. And then he starts mass murdering people again. Now, there's a scene at the hospital that talks about where Allison, the daughter, they're talking about, "Oh, Michael's coming here. He's coming to the hospital. We got to protect my mother," is what Karen is saying. And Allison's like, "No. He's not." She's the first one to kind of mention it, and, no one listens to her. But Michael didn't follow Laurie in the 2018 movie. He was brought there by the creepy doctor, and then was basically led on a path to kill her and her family. There was no him finding any of the Strodes throughout the whole movie. It was just kind of a coincidence, and that's what it was supposed to be, and that's how Carpenter wanted it. And so the fact that they bring it up finally in the movie, she mentions it to her boyfriend and her boyfriend's father, who Lonnie is also a character from the original movie, different actor, but is a character from the original film as well. And then when Will Patton's character, who does survive, so shocker, spoiler, Will Patton's character left for dead at the end of 2018's Halloween, does live. He's the one that tells Laurie the whole plan, and that it wasn't about her, and it's never been about her. Kind of taking the wind out of everyone's sails, I think, that think it's a vendetta that he has against her. Now, it's something that she's created in her head, so the vendetta to her is real, but to Michael, it's not. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter who it is. It's just whoever's in front of him is going to get slaughtered in a
exactly.
most way. Let's just talk
go ahead.
Kill real quick. Without going into any real specifics about who gets it and who doesn't. Just outstanding with the gore and the kills in this one.
This movie... So, I really liked it. I wanted to love it. I didn't love it, but I really liked it. But you're right. The kills are what put it over the top. And I think the movie turned out exactly how they wanted it to be. They wanted the first one, the 2018 one, technically the second one in this universe, to be like reset up the story. Give us the plot of what's happening. And then this one was just the brutal one. This was like, we're going to show Michael at his brutalest. He's just going to murder a bunch of people. You're going to feel kind of almost disgusted at times when he kills these people. And you're going to be kind of left at the end just being like, what the fuck? What? Like, what? What did I just want? What? And it all is set up for the third movie. And I think...
I love... I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I love the setup that they did, letting you think, well, what? And then hard right.
Yes.
You know what I mean? I'm not going into specifics about what happened, but...
No, and we can get back to the...
No.
Yes. And we can get back to the gore and the brutality. I mean, just the opening scene with the firemen, just some of those murders are just amazing. And the brutality, when I say brutality, I don't mean the gore, because people will take it that way. Like, there are several characters that he basically beats to death. And you see, like, you feel and see every punch, every crunch, every bone break. That's what they mean. When people say this movie is brutal, that's what they're talking about. How, like, just relentless it is when it comes to that aspect. I mean, I'll tell you right now, there are characters at the end of this movie, you don't know what happened to them yet. And I kind of, as a fan, I want to know, I'm kind of excited to see where the second one, the third one goes, sorry. And it sets up this massive, just, title card, if you will, between Jamie, or between Laurie and Michael. It was great to have Will Patton's character survive. So the main plot is that Michael starts, I know we're jumping around a lot of people, so I apologize, but the main plot is Michael escapes the house and he starts killing a huge amount of people. Tommy Doyle and let me get their names because I forget the nurse Marion, Tommy Doyle, and Lindsay are at a bar, and they're having drinks, kind of like celebrating Halloween. Tommy goes up and gives a speech about Michael Myers and how Laurie Strode beat him years ago, and it's we need to be forever grateful, that kind of thing. And they then find out through Lonnie's son, who's the boyfriend from the last movie, that there's the Sheriff Hawkins was injured and there's something's going on. So then that's where they kind of find everything. They see a news report and everything starts clicking in that Michael Myers is back and that he's not, that he's coming for revenge, or he's gonna start killing people. So they put together like a mob type mentality with these people, which is very modern day, I think. I guess maybe not even modern. It's human. Human nature, I guess, because if you think about like Frankenstein, like that, they did that in that movie, right? The mob comes to kill the monster. So, talking like that, like
when the hospital scene happens and the whole mob mentality, I'm like, oh look, it's January 6th,
right? I think that we've had so much of, and that's where I guess I said modern, where obviously I feel like what happened recently has influenced their movie. But now that I think about it, throughout history, we've made movies about monsters, and they all end in this kind of way. People go crazy. Everyone's scared. And what do people do when they get scared? They act out, and they get violent. And, this movie has that. It really is a huge part of it. It hits on all those nerves of, like, how you would handle this type of situation. How I feel like The Walking Dead did a good job of, like, how people would be in this actual situation. So it makes you think as you're watching, like, well, how would I react? And this movie does that a lot. It focuses a lot more on the people, and Michael is more of like kind of just in the background murdering people. You know what I mean? If that makes sense.
It does.
It's great to have Kyle Richards back to play Lindsay. People that don't know, Lindsay and Tommy Doyle are the two characters that Laurie is babysitting at the end of the first Halloween movie. As she's babysitting Tommy, and then Lindsay gets dropped off by Annie Brackett, who's Chief Brackett's daughter, because she and her boyfriend are going to go do it. To see Chief Brackett back, too, was fun. He's like working security at the hospital now. So I thought that was a little fun inclusion. And God, he's so old. But I was like, wow. It was great to have him in the movie as well. And to kind of have all these characters. Like, they go back. It's nice, too, in the beginning. They go back and tell Hawkins' backstory. Because Hawkins is a new character. And that they created in the 2018 version. So they went and they shot a whole scene, basically, from 1978. And added his character and a couple other characters into the film. So I thought that was really cool how they did that. They do have a way of bringing Donald Pleasance back, which I thought was really cool for some new scenes. Obviously, there's digitally they can do that now with recreation and stuff like that. Yeah, I think as a Halloween fan, this movie has basically everything you want. I think the only thing I was missing was the finality of it. And I think that's obvious that wasn't going to happen because we're getting another movie. So I think when it's said and done, when you have all 4 movies and you can put them together, Wayne, I think you're going to have a great set of 4 films. And it's going to be a great quadrilogy, if you will, that I will continuously watch for a long time.
Right. It's a great bridge movie because, it does something, it does everything you need to set up the last movie. But yeah, it just feels like it's missing something.
Yes.
But I mean, like you said, the finality of it, but it's just like, it serves its purpose, I guess, is the best way I can.
Yes. I think it's just one of those things that I think it'll feel more complete when you watch it with the other movie. And it's just, in that sense, you kind of like, oh, maybe they should have released them sooner than a year apart. But I think it'll work, and I think by next year when we're talking about Halloween Ends, I'll be really excited that, and I think Halloween Kills will probably grow on me even more because I will watch it again, obviously. Anytime I get to see Michael just brutally murder people, it's entertaining to me, people. I know it's not entertaining for everybody. I do want to say I thought Anthony Michael Hall did a nice job as playing Tommy Doyle. I know people were upset that they didn't cast one of the original Tommy Doyles, but I thought he did a really good job.
I am just really excited to watch all 4 of them in sequential,
Yes.
in a row.
Yep, agreed. Doing a marathon will be a lot of fun.
Because after I watched Kills, I went back and I watched 1978, and then I watched 2007 just to kind of compare you, if you will, or just, and again, they're all great in their own aspects, in my opinion. So
yeah, the last time I watched the 07 one, I couldn't get into it as much.
That's a good point. I like the lead up though and the story behind it. When he's actually an adult and everything, it does kind of lose something.
Yes.
But I don't know. I really do appreciate what Zombie did with the backstory, if you will.
Yeah, it was creative, I'd say. All right, so Halloween Kills now on Peacock or in theaters. It actually did very well in theaters, so that's really great news. But you can catch it on Peacock if you're not ready to go back to the cinema just yet. So next we're going to do our other new movie, and it came out last week. There's Someone Inside Your House, and it's a Netflix original. It is a slasher movie directed by Patrick Bryce, based on a book by Stephanie Perkins and written by Henry Gayden. It is another kind of it's a modern day slasher, but it reminds me of the 90s slashers, Wayne, similar to Fear Street. I had a pretty good time with this movie. It basically what it is, there's someone killing people, and he's wearing a 3D replica face of theirs as he murders them. So you're being murdered by yourself. And at the time you're murdered, right after it is revealed, or even during, there's a secret that you held, that is now being revealed to your family, your friends, and the world, basically. And
why you are being killed, because this is why you deserve it.
Exactly. There's bullies that are being murdered. There's the one girl who's like basically a Nazi, or a white supremacist, if you will. There's just several different reasons, and they're all, secrets that these kids are holding. And I really liked all the beats to the movie. I liked the music. I thought the music was really well done. I liked the performances. It sets up. I will say, by the time they got to the end, I kind of predicted who the killer was going to be. But for most of the movie, you don't know. It was, I found myself really enjoying it. I really liked it. It's not perfect by any sense. It reminded me a lot of I Know What You Did Last Summer, kind of in just the style of it, not necessarily the setup. The setup is very much more Scream. But it really kind of struck a note. It was it's nice in this year to have like all these kind of slasher movies come out. We get Halloween Kills, we get this one, we get the whole Fear Street series. There's the new, I haven't watched it yet, but the new I Know What You Did Last Summer TV show on Amazon. Chucky TV series. So the fact that like this slasher genre is kind of having is being revived in 2021 is really exciting for me specifically.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I didn't like it as much as I hoping I would. There's a little too much teen angstiness. I wanted more slasher, more thrill to it, and I actually, unfortunately, not to toot my own horn, guessed correctly what was going to happen and everything. So
yeah, well, I think it does. Yeah, that does tend to ruin it for you. Like I said, definitely before it happened, the reveal happened, I knew who it was at that point, but I can't remember when exactly I knew that. But it's definitely not as great at hiding it, I guess, as some of the other movies, like something like Scream, where you really don't know the first time you watch it until the very end. Or I Know What You Did Last Summer, where it's someone who you wouldn't even completely expect it to be. So I mean, it's out there. Check it out on Netflix if you're interested. Like I said, I liked it obviously more than Wayne did. It's definitely entertaining. I think you'll enjoy it if you watch it. It is very modern, so it is has queer characters, trans character in it, and so it's got a lot of that going on. Very much now slasher film. So if that's something that you can't handle because you're a bigot or whatever, then don't watch it. But I think it's at least enjoyable, even if you don't like it as much as I did. It is at least an entertaining film, and some of the kills are pretty good, I would say. So that's what I have to say about that one.
Yeah, definitely, obviously applaud the inclusion of everybody, and it's becoming more and more like mainstream, where you don't even notice it as much, which is good. It's a character. It's not, oh my God, it's the gay character. It's this.
Exactly. That's what was great about it. I think one of the things I liked a lot about it was that the trans character is just a character. No one really, a couple of times they mention it, but not very much, and the character is not defined by that. And I thought that was really a good way to go. And again, because you always see people complaining, oh, everything's gonna be so woke or whatever. The more they do it, the less woke you're gonna feel, and it's just gonna be normal. So just let it happen, and at some point in your life you'll go, oh yeah, 20 years from now you'll be complaining about whatever else is new that they're adding into horror films, because you can't grow old, you can't adapt. All right, so the next two movies are older films that we reviewed. I'm gonna start with, I think, one that was somewhat enjoyable, for at least. From 1989, Sundown, The Vampire in Retreat. It stars David Carradine, Morgan Brittany, Bruce Campbell, Jim Metzier, Maxwell Caulfield from Grease 2 and Empire Records. We reviewed Grease 2 somewhat recently. Deborah Foreman, Emmett Walsh, who's great in this, I think.
Absolute
He was probably my favorite until Bruce Campbell showed up, of course. So Sundown Vampire in Retreat is about a family who moved to a small town to help a factory make a blood supplement, but it's not really what they think it is, because it's vampires that need it. Because there aren't very many vampires around in the world anymore, and they're setting up these communities. And the main vampire, played by David Carradine, Martelak, is made it so like he kind of like Blade, where he wants them to just kind of not kill people, just feed off of other things that are blood. So they're trying to make a blood supplement. And they bring in this family, and things start getting weird. Maxwell Caulfield plays the ex-boyfriend of Sarah, who then has been turned into a vampire. And so there's another vampire who is like the right hand to the main vampire, and he wants to go back to eating people. So he gets a lot of the vampires to go with him because it's natural and that's what they're supposed to do. And so they end up basically going against the other vampires. And meanwhile, in this whole mess, you have Bruce Campbell, who plays a relative of Van Helsing. And he is trying to rid the world of vampires. But he ends up falling in love, basically, with one of the vampires. And at some point becoming one of the vampires. David Carradine plays Dracula, or Martelak. And I think he is a pretty fun performance here, Wayne. This movie is really strange and really out there, I think. But it's a horror comedy from 1989. And M. Emmett Walsh, as I said, he gives a really great performance. He kills, like, he's got anger management issues. They don't eat the guy they kill, but he is so strong he punches the guy's head off. And then ends up in jail because some humans saw him do it. So they gotta like kind of fakely punish him at first because it's a town that's entirely made up of vampires.
Yeah, I got some strong Beetlejuice vibes from like the sets and whatnot, like when he's got the tie on and everything, and he's sitting there waiting to go into like court, if you will. It's like,
yes.
Oh, look at that! It kind of reminds me of, I don't know. Maybe I'm just
I think you're right.
An obscure connection there, but
it definitely had the feel of a 1980s dark horror comedy, I think. They weren't playing it as a spoof. It was played straight. And of course, when Bruce Campbell comes in, they basically, you could tell they told him, play Ash from Evil Dead 2. And that's basically what he did. He's very goofy, very kind of physical humor, weird faces and stuff like that. But, anytime I get to watch Bruce Campbell, this is one I hadn't seen before. So it was a lot of fun just to see him in this. You could do worse than this movie. It's rated R, so there's some blood and stuff in it. It's not super gory by any stretch, but you do see the vampires themselves create their own death as they make wooden bullets, which I thought was interesting, to take out the other vampires. But yeah, it's a goofy movie, but it's fun, I think. All right, Wayne, did you have a good time with it?
I did. I enjoyed it. Made me chuckle.
So that one is on Amazon Prime, if you want to check that one out. And then the next one we have, Wayne, the final one of the week. Another slasher. This one from 1986. And it's called Body Count. Stars Bruce Penhall, Mimsy Farmer, David Hess, who's from Last House on the Left, Louisa Maneri. Let's see, there's another actor that's recognizable. The sheriff in this movie is actually an actor who's been, Charles Napier, who was in Silence of the Lambs. He's one of the people that Hannibal Lecter murders in that movie. So I watched this one like a couple weeks ago. So this is one of the ones we were supposed to review last week. A group of teens are stalked and killed by a shaman at a cursed camping site. So these group of teenagers, as most slasher movies, that's how they start, go into the woods, and they have a hitchhiker returning from the military who they pick up, whose parents own a house on the property that they're going to go camp in. And years ago, we were shown a shaman murdering a couple teenagers. That's in the beginning of the movie. And then we fast forward like 20 some years. And, there's belief that the shaman is still in the woods killing these people. I mean, you don't really care for any of these characters, Wayne, right?
Nope.
Watching them get murdered is fine, because they all kind of suck. There's some nudity and stuff.
Yeah. Classic 80s, yeah.
Yeah, there's some good gore and some good death scenes. But overall, it's just kind of a disaster. I'll be honest, I'd never heard of it before. I was kind of just going through Amazon, and I found it, and I was like, oh, this movie. And then there's like the plot of like it's a slasher film that throws in a domestic plot where the wife is sleeping with the sheriff, and the husband knows, so then she tries to kill the husband, but then the husband comes back and kills her. And so, like, that's a whole, like, side plot that's happening at the exact same time that someone's killing people in the woods. Spoiler alert, it's their son. He's the one murdering people. Because he saw the shaman murder the girl back in the day. Or he was the shaman. It's not entirely clear either. But they do show another killer at the when they do like their final scare, as the dad is in the woods, and they show someone else like trying to murder him. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just it's hard to talk about.
Honestly, because at one point there's an RV and people are sleeping in the RV, and then another point there's like a severed leg. It's like, wait a minute, what the hell's going on?
That's true. It just keeps kind of jumping around, and people keep disappearing, and the other people are like, oh my god, we have to find them, and then they just don't care at some point. I did like, too, at the end, where like the two people that live, and like they don't seem to give a shit about anybody else that's dead. That seems to be an 80s thing, too, where like no one cares about the victims anymore. It's all about just like, oh, okay, well, we survived, so that's good. That guy was crazy. Yeah, it's a real nutty movie. I don't know. I don't really highly recommend this one at all, unless you need to see like an 80s slasher that kind of like there isn't even really a reason given why the kid's the killer now, except that he witnessed it. I guess like that's the whole. Like, he witnessed it, so now he murders people, or he's gonna murder people. I don't know. It was just kind of weird. So it didn't really work. It was probably the only other time I've seen David Hess in a movie, the guy from Last House on the Left, and he wasn't very good in it. You could tell they had a little bit of a budget, and it was again when the 80s slasher boom was happening. So I get why they made it. It didn't really work for me. Wayne, any other final thoughts on Body Count?
Nope. I'm good.
That's pretty much the easiest way to sum it up, everybody. Nope. Nothing else to say. I apologize for making us watch this movie.
And they can't all be.
Yes, exactly. All right, so I was preparing a lot for this episode. Well, here, let me go through what I watched real quick for 31 Days of Horror, or of Halloween. So I've done The Wolfman from 1941, No One Gets Out Alive from 2021, The Fog from 1980, The Thing from 82, Bingo Hell is a newer movie. I watched Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, The Mummy, Madres, which was okay, Horror of Dracula, which was alright, Raha Rex, which was weird, The Ward, the John Carpenter movie, The Manor, which I liked, that was an Amazon Prime Blumhouse one, the original Child's Play, one of my favorites, and then 2018's Halloween, another fantastic film, if you have yet to see it. Yesterday I watched April Fool's Day, which is like it's a horror slasher, but not really. You have to see it in order. I don't want to spoil it. It's a fun one though. So that's really what I've watched this week. I did, Wayne, get to see the first episode of Chucky, the new TV series, bringing back the whole original cast, but adding a bunch of new characters. Devon Sawa is in this, and all the kid actors are new to the franchise. A lot of fun. I really liked it. I'm excited to see where this goes. It's only 8 episodes. I hope they do another season already, and I've only watched 1 episode, but I'm really excited to see where the Chucky TV series goes, because it was so great to have the character back and in the same form that when we left him, and just the funny and psychotic and comedic character that he is.
Yes.
Anything you watched this week, Wayne?
I started watching season 3 of the movies that made us. Obviously, the first episode, Halloween, is fantastic.
Yes.
Very, very good. Still making my way through Friends. Like I said, I went and watched a lot of the Halloween movies this week, just as Halloween Kills inspired me. So.
Very nice.
Yeah, basically it, really.
All right. Well, get on to the news and notes then. But yes, I will second the movies that made us. They're basically all horror movies right now. So Friday the 13th, I saw was in there. Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So if you like horror films, go watch the movies that made us, because the Halloween episode was really good, and I'm looking forward to the other ones. All right. So news this week: Will Poulter cast as Adam Warlock in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. David Gordon Green to direct Disney film about building the first theme park. Paul Bettany to star in Harvest Moon for Miramax. Carmen Egigo and Candice Bergen and Carrie Ells will be joining him. Emma Corrin to headline FX limited series Retreat. Anthony Hopkins joins Jeremy Strong in James Gray's Armageddon Time film. Upgrade TV series being worked on at Blumhouse. Lee Wanell was the director and writer of Upgrade, and it's his baby, so we'll see if he's involved. Toni Collette and Monica Bellucci to star in Catherine Hardwicke's Mafia Mama comedy film. You has already been renewed for season 4 at Netflix, and season 3 just hit on Friday. Rumor, Howard the Duck animated series is in the works. He was part of the What If TV series a little bit, so I could see why they would want to make a whole series out of him. Seth Green voices him in the MCU. How to Train Your Dragon sequel series set 1,000 years in the future to go at is going to air at Hulu and Peacock. A Quiet Place star Millicent Simmons, who is deaf in real life, will star as a young Helen Keller alongside Rachel Brosnahan, who will play her translator. It will be called Helen and Teacher, and directed by Wash Westmoreland, who did Still Alice with Julianne Moore and Alec Baldwin. Lynn Shay, horror icon, to lead action series called Ellen from Regency and Q Code. Releases coming out soon. Lost in Space, the final season, arrives on Netflix December 1st. Masters of the Universe Revelations from Kevin Smith will debut final 5 episodes. Now, I say final only because they haven't been picked up for a second season yet. So that's just what we know at the moment. There could be more episodes if people really like this show. They'll air on Netflix on November 23rd. The Tender Bar, starring Ben Affleck, directed by George Clooney, hits theaters December 17th and Amazon Prime on January 7th. Passing, starring Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson, written and directed by Rebecca Hall, hits Netflix November 10th. People that have died this last week: Granville Adams from Oz, dead at 58 from cancer. Dion Estes, bassist from Wham, and George Michael, dead at 65. Ricardo Flanagan, shameless actor and comedian, dead at 40. Gary Paulson, author, dead at 82. And Ravel Eisenoff, an NCIS LA and Glow actor, dead at 59 after long illness. So that's our show for this week, everybody. It was a lot of movies to talk about, a lot of good ones to recommend to you guys. So hopefully you listen and you go enjoy some of the films we talked about. Thank you for listening, everybody. We appreciate it every week. This has been Now Showing with Mike and Wayne. Have a great week.